Well, hello. I am recording my portion of chapter 7, and I am going to begin. Let's see. I chapter 7 was about writing objective test items. And really, it's looking at which format is going to be best. The chapter really focuses on objective test items and how to construct them. So here are the different formats: true, false, matching, multiple choice, and short answer. I will be going over true, false, and matching. Then Dia will be going over multiple choice and short answer. And you might be wondering, well, where would the essay come in? That's actually going to be in chapter 8. So I want to start with this comic here. Here's Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Sometimes I lie awake at night and I ask, is life a multiple choice test or is it a true or false test? Then a voice comes to me out of the dark and says, we hate to tell you this, but life is a 1,000-word essay. So sometimes the format can be tricky and sometimes it might be a little more obvious. But once you've reached the item writing stage of the test construction, you will have to choose a format or a combination of formats to use for the test. So let's take a look at true and false items. This was taken out from the book, and true and false are quick to write, or at least they're less time consuming to construct, but they're not always easy or as easy to write as one might think. So let's look at these test questions and think if they're good items or poor items. So you're going to be almost thinking is putting a G in the space next to the item if it's a good, true, false item, or a P next to the item if you feel that it is rather poor. I'm going to read through them. And then after I read through them, I'm going to give you a time to turn and talk to a friend near you to see if there's any that jump out at you as good questions or poor questions. So let me read through them first. All right, number 1. High IQ children always get high grades in school. Number 2. Will Rogers said, I never met a man I didn't like. Number 3. If a plane crashed on the Mexican US border, half the survivors would be buried in Mexico and half in the United States. Number 4. The use of double negatives is not an altogether undesirable characteristic of diplomats and academics. Number 5. Prayer should not be outlawed in schools. Number 6. Of the objective items, true false items are the least time consuming to construct. And number 7, the trend towards testing of high school graduates began in the late 1970s and represents a big step forward for slow learners. All right, so I'd like you to turn and talk, and I'm just going to give you less than a minute to kind of just share if there was one or two questions that really stood out to you to be either poor or good. All right, please turn and talk and share with your partner near you what you think. Okay, so let's take a look at these. And again, this is from page 108. So we're going to take a look at each one, and this is probably a few things that you even shared with your partner next to you. So number 1, that would be a poor question. High IQ children always get high grades in school. It's that word always. Um, a student will usually answer false to items that include always, all, never, or only. So you could replace the word always to tend. So high IQ children tend to get high grades in school. All right, number 2. Will Rogers said, I never met a man I didn't like. That'd be a good example. Something that they would really need to know if Will Rogers said or not. However, it's still a 50% chance of guessing it correctly. That's what happens with true false. Number 3, if a plane crashed on the Mexican-US border, half the survivors would be buried in Mexico and half in the United States. That would be poor because of the word survivors. Some of you maybe even read it and didn't realize it, and you just assumed that that was really fatalities. But the word survivor couldn't be buried alive. So that would be poor. Number 4. Let's see. Number 4 would actually be poor. It's a double negative using not and un. It's too confusing, and it's also kind of an opinion. 5, poor example of an item. Again, it's more an opinion. Prayer should not be out loud in schools. Now, number 6, of the objective items, true, false items are the least time consuming to construct. That's a good example of a good question. And 7 is poor. And again, it asks 2 questions in one. So here are some suggestions for writing true, false statements. Number 1, explain the method of marking true, false before taking the test. Make sure it's written in the directions beforehand. Number 2, construct statements that are definitely true or false. Number 3, use short statements. Number 4, try to make equal numbers of true and false items. Number 5, avoid double negative statements. And number 6, avoid verbal clues and general statements. All right, moving on to matching items. So these are popular and convenient. Once again, though, they're not easy to write. So let's take a look at these matching items from page 111. All right, it says directions, match A and B. So in A, we have 1, Lincoln, 2, Nixon, 3, Whitney, 4, Ford, 5, Bell, 6, King, 7, Washington, 8, Roosevelt. List B, A, president during the 20th century, B, invented the telephone, C, delivered the Emancipation Proclamation, D, recently resigned from office, E, civil rights leader, F, invented the cotton gin, G, our first president, H, only president elected for more than 2 terms. All right, so once again, I'll just give you a little under a minute, but if you could turn and talk to a friend, what do you think about these matching items? All right, please share with a partner what's your first thinking, initial thinking. Turn and talk and go. So there were definitely some faults in these matching items. First of all, the list is not homogeneous. So it mixes up presidents, inventors, leaders. There's a wrong order in the list. It should actually, they should switch A and B, or the column on the left to the right. We're trained to read from left to right. Easy guessing. It's the same number, so kind of process of elimination. There's too many correct responses, right? The 20th century presidents could be more than one. And then ambiguous lists. Henry Ford, General Ford. Want to be as clear as possible. Here are some suggestions for writing matching items. Keep the list short. The list on the left should include longer phrases. Each description in the list should be numbered. The list of options should be identified by letter, include more options than descriptions, and in directions, specify whether options can be used more than once. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my partner now, and I'll be seeing you soon.